Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to do January's 3 on 3 on community involvement. My name's Cathy Hoppough from Keller Williams Rivertown Hoppough. And we're honored today to have three great agents with us. We have Jake Peterson, Sarah Boucher, and Dan Steffee. So we're going to start by having you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, how long you've been in the business. So Jake, would you like to start?
Sure. So I'm with Remax of Grand Rapids. I've been in the business for over a decade now. Doesn't seem like I'm that old, but I am. I'm married. I have two children, and yeah, that's my story.
My name's Dan Steffee. I work for Green Crown Real Estate. I've been licensed selling residential real estate for over 10 years, probably my 11th year doing that now, I think, but working in real estate for over 13 years.
I'm Sarah Boucher with Revive Realty, coming up on year number 3. So newer kid on the block, but still here. Married, got 4 kiddos, a couple of pets, and love to travel and see different places.
Wow, you guys are all newbies to me. I've been doing this for 41 years. Can you believe that?
It's almost as old as Jake is.
I was going to say, Jake's younger than how long I've been in the business, if that doesn't make me feel old. Sarah, what's your why? Why are you involved in your community?
So I was always connected with my community. We fostered and adopted kids at the beginning of our marriage. And so through that, really realized how important community is and having people around us to support us. And we wouldn't be where we are in our family today without the community. So now I'm in a position to give back, and that's what I like to focus on.
That's awesome. How about you, Dan?
I am a strong believer in community and just kind of the sense of a whole and what it means to be part of a bigger thing. And I think it's a lonely place, and when you're living in the world by yourself or feel alone. And I think the answer to that is community, and it's there to support and bring out the best in you. And we've been lucky to live in such an awesome community here in the Grand Rapids area. And I think we're given so much, and it's on us to give back and help grow with it.
Jake?
Yeah, so I have strong Christian values that I believe in, and that was amplified really July 12, 2008. My son was born, and he had some difficulties in that birth. Ended up having a traumatic birth, fractured his skull, some brain damage, and 7 seizures in his first 24 hours of being born. And that changes you. It gives you a different perspective, and when you go through a trial like that, and then when you get to that point when you can help others, you appreciate the help you've been given and want to give back in that way as well.
It's an amazing story. Sarah, have you used real estate to work alongside your why?
I have. Real estate happens when life happens. So there's always some reason that people are buying, selling, moving. And a lot of the people that I've worked with have had some challenges in life, maybe a death or a divorce. Maybe they need a certain configuration in their home for someone with special needs. So really being able to understand those needs and relate to them beyond the real estate transaction, and just see the people that we're working with and be that calm presence and reassuring has been a way that I've really been blessed to work with people. And then when they look at their home or what happens in life, they're maybe thinking of some happier times and able to let go of some of those challenges.
It's really emotional. Real estate is such an emotional experience for everyone, and you just really talked about that. How about you, Dan?
So I think mine's maybe slightly different, but having more of a flexible schedule and being able to allot your time kind of how you see fit and make your schedule yourself has given me opportunities to kind of plug in weekly activities over time. I think the biggest thing that maybe I've done in that regard was working for the Red Cross and their transportation department for 7 years. I did that every Thursday morning into the afternoon, and it actually helped me learn the areas a lot better, just from driving around all over the county. But I think having that flexibility and the option to be able to work that in is not something everybody can do. And I think that's been a big help for me.
How about you, Jake?
Yeah, flexibility with time is a great thing. Also, being able to help people with a big purchase, a big thing in their lives, and then also just meeting people, so many people that care and want to help in different ways. So you can become united in helping for a cause or helping to help others in the community. I've had it where I send out an email or a message to past clients and say, hey, this is what I want to do for the community. And just seeing how everybody supports that and wants to help is it's pretty powerful.
So you've all talked about families. How do you balance your time? You've got the career, you've got church, you've got kids. How do you balance your time, Jake?
Well, my wife tells me that I need to say no to things, but that's really hard for me to do.
That's a hard thing to learn to do.
Right. So instead, I hired a coach this year to help me with balancing that time. So it's okay, here's my business. Here's the time I'm going to focus on that. Here's my helping different organizations and communities, and just really dialing that in and just being accountable the time you're spending and being able to use that time wisely to accomplish all your goals.
Do you time block?
I do. Yep, that's a big thing. So my mornings are very powerful to me. That's when I can make my list. I can go through my client emails and different things I got to get through. So you dedicate that time, and it's so much more efficient that way.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Sarah?
I really like the flexibility that I have, and actually being in real estate surprisingly has given me more time to invest in family and things that are important. This year took on coaching the kids' basketball teams.
Oh, fun.
First time I've ever done something like that, but I'm able to do that because I can work my schedule around that. Like Jake, I have a hard time saying no to things. So that's one thing I've been working on too, is just blocking off some times where this is family time or this is time to kind of reset, and really figuring out before I say yes to something, is this important and how is this going to benefit myself, my family, my community, and being honest with people. If I can't go to that Christmas party or I can't do something, just letting them know, hey, I've got family things going on, or I'm taking time for a reset, because we all need to take care of ourselves. And in this business that can be 24/7, sometimes that's a hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Dan?
No wonder you guys are so successful. Time blocking, I think, like you guys mentioned, is so important. It's probably, I feel like, the hardest thing that we have to try to do on a daily basis,
Yep.
and the hardest thing for any of us to maintain. So I think being forgiving with yourself and also not giving up is just as important, because balance isn't something that you attain one time and then hold forever. You're constantly in flux trying to find the right balance. And I think sometimes people have a tendency to be hard on themselves or overdo it. And I think learning to say no was a huge thing for me, and not feel guilty about it, but understand that if I'm saying yes to something, I'm saying no to something else, and being really aware of what that might be, and making sure that you're doing the right thing for you and your family in that time. So it's not always easy, but I think if you're saying no to something and the person that asked you really cares about you, they understand if you have other things going on that may be more important at the time.
I find time blocking is the hardest thing for me to do.
Yeah.
And I have a coach too, and it's still hard for me to time block. I'm not there yet, but I need to get there.
Just keep trying.
Yeah, just got to keep trying. So, like, what are you involved in your community, Jake?
Yeah, so I'm a co-founder of the Give Mercy Project, and that's a great organization. We share resources with the community, whether it's food, shelters, who to talk to if you're having medical expenses, as well as we can do some great things like we did a coat drive this last fall, and we're able to give 400 coats to the homeless.
Wow.
Awesome.
So it's not tied into one specific thing,
Okay.
but it's rather, hey, if somebody needs help and you're aware of it, bring it to our attention, and we're going to see what we can do to help, whether it's provide resources to them or just information as well.
That's awesome. How about you, Dan?
So things have kind of changed in my life where I was dedicating a lot of time. I was doing, like I mentioned before, transportation for the Red Cross that was taking elderly, disabled, low income folks to their doctor's appointments, dialysis. Sometimes it would be to go to the grocery store, or get a haircut, things like that. That program was dropped a few years ago. So I decided to be more involved, I guess, monetarily. The association has some great opportunities for giving back with the Community Involvement Task Force that Sarah and I are on, the Giving Challenge, the Schoolhouse Fund. Pairing fundraisers with client events has always been successful. But one thing I've tried to do is that when people ask me to be involved in something they're passionate about, to always find a way to be involved or give them something. I think it's a high honor for somebody to think of you when they think of giving back. And it's important that, you take that as such and be appreciative of the opportunity and not view it as a burden or, oh no, I can't do that because I did this. It's a privilege to be thought of in that way. And so,
Well, and I think sometimes when we're asked to do things, you automatically think they're asking you for money, but sometimes
Yeah.
our talent, right, and our resources is the greatest thing that we can give somebody. How about you, Sarah?
So I've been involved with the school through coaching basketball, chaperoning field trips, things like that. I collect books and stock little free libraries around the community. I'm inspired by one of my previous coworkers who actually started a nonprofit to do such a thing. And I did a trunk or treat to raise money for schools this last fall, which was amazing. Dan came out
I was there.
in costume and helped direct traffic, make sure that everyone stayed safe. So I've been doing those things, and I'm working on ways to partner with an organization called Kids Belong that supports foster youth and families in Ottawa and Muskegon counties with things like diapers, wipes, brand new clothing for kids coming into foster care, really things that can help build family relationships and help the kids in care maintain their dignity, especially because it's a very traumatic experience that they're going through when they come into foster care.
Have you ever overextended yourself? And if so, which I'm sure we all have, how did you gracefully bow out?
I have had a tendency up until about the last year or two of constantly overextending myself and feeling exhausted. And so I'm really having to, as the guys have said, to hone in on what can I do with my capacity and focus on that, because if I spread myself too thin, then I'm not doing good for really anybody. And also tapping into my network partners, friends, family to say, how can we do some of these things together? Because we can be more powerful when we're working together.
You bowed out gracefully on anything, Dan?
Yeah. I feel like that's, I feel like that brings back emotions. Like I've strongly felt that way before in the past. And I think it's that airplane oxygen mask analogy that you hear so much, and that you can't help other people unless you're in a good place to, yourself. So I just have the tendency of trying to do too much, not eating, simple things, not drinking water, and then the rest of the day you feel miserable.
I've never had that not eating problem. I just always remember to eat.
It's fairly important. But, taking care of yourself first and foremost, being healthy, having energy, having a clear mind. If you don't have that, then, you don't really have much, I don't think, in my opinion. So you have to take care of yourself first to help other people. And it's happened. It'll happen again.
Right. Jake?
Yeah, so when I go into something, I always have really big goals, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to change the world. This is how it's going to get done. So, with the Give Mercy Project, I had really big goals. And then you got to get realistic, right? Like, okay, what can I accomplish? What can I do? And then there's another organization that needs some help. So, okay, what can I do there? So it's a balance. And it's, yes, you want this to happen, but then you realize, like, with the time we have, let's be realistic and let's not beat ourselves up about that. So.
It's good advice. Any unexpected outcomes or like an eye-opening, heart-wrenching experience that you've had, Jake?
Yeah, so I would say with this coat drive we did last fall, how that came about is I had a house that my construction team was redoing for me, and I would drive by this organization, and and I did that maybe 5, 6 times, and then I decided just to go in there and see what they're all about. And the director explained to me, hey, this is our mission. This is how we're trying to help people in our community in Grand Rapids. And, the reason that the homeless community is what it is, there's a lot that goes into it. It's domestic abuse where people can get kicked out of a home, mental illness, um, PTSD. So then you kind of get your eyes open like, okay, this is how somebody got in this really sad circumstance. So what can I do to do a small thing to help with that?
Dan, anything?
Definitely, yeah. I think it's kind of a shame to say, but when I was more involved with the time aspect and dealing with people who were not as well off as me, I think there were times of judgment on my behalf, and times where it was, these people were always treating me with kindness. And they were always, although they were worse off in many ways, they always seemed like they had a good attitude. And it got me questioning, myself a little bit about when you judge somebody, it's a reflection of yourself, and not of them. And also that, you can choose your attitude every day. And just because you don't have this or that, having a bad attitude is kind of the biggest handicap, that you can have. So when you see people that are worse off than you, but happier than you, it kind of makes you think, what is it that I'm not doing right?
Because every day is a choice, right?
Yeah.
We make that choice every day. It's going to be a good day or it's going to be a bad day.
Yeah. And so that was eye-opening for me in I want to say my younger days, and powerful. And I felt like I always got a lot more from them than they got from me. So.
How about you, Sarah?
Prior to being in real estate, I worked in social work and child welfare, and it just gives you a whole nother perspective about the world around you, and how, even my husband and I were having the conversation last night, that a lot of times we tend to fill in the blanks. We tend to think that we know what someone's thinking or know what somebody means or know somebody's situation. And just taking a minute to pause and reflect and really listen to what people are saying can be very eye-opening, because their story may be something completely different. And even talking with my kids about, you see things on social media or you see things on TV and everything's perfect. It's the shiny side of life. Rarely do I post on social media, oh my gosh, I had this really awful day or this terrible thing is happening. So taking that perspective, working with clients, working with the community, not filling in those blanks myself and letting people tell their story and figuring out how to meet them where they're at. It might be a high point in life, it might be a low point in life, but just making sure that I'm respecting them and seeing what they need, not what I think they need or what I want to give them.
That's a great statement. Meeting somebody where they're at. Yep.
And listening. I think that I see so many new agents that don't listen to their clients, and it's like they're so after that sale that they're not listening to what the client really needs. And I think that that's not just a natural thing that you have, and it is an acquired skill. I think the more you listen, the more successful you're going to end up being, because you're going to meet their needs. So my final question is, what would your best advice be to a brand new agent that wants to really get involved with community involvement, giving back, helping quality of life in their communities?
Yeah. I would say start small, but start somewhere. You don't have to move the mountain by picking up the mountain and placing it over there. You start with one little rock, and you start moving it that way. So that would be my advice. Just find something you're passionate about. You don't have to dedicate all your time to it, but get into a pattern of helping, and it'll flow naturally from there.
Dan?
I love that question. I think building off what Jake said is you start small and that you're building a legacy over time. Nobody builds a legacy with one thing they do or in 1 year. It's something that you're going to do over the course of decades. And I think a lot of people, when they're trying to think, well, where do I go? Where do I go to give back? I don't know what I want to do, or who to support. I think if you just put it on your heart and your mind and you keep it at the top of your mind, it'll present itself.
Right.
When the
Near
time
and
is
dear to
right.
your heart, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't think it has to be, I think it should be something that you enjoy doing, that you
Yes.
get some
So it's not a
enjoyment
job,
from.
right?
Yeah. It shouldn't feel like it should be something you want to go and do, not something that you do begrudgingly. And there's a lot of opportunities out there, and you want to make sure you find something that's the right fit. And I bet chances are there's like-minded people that are there as well that you're going to enjoy and get to know and become friends with. And that'll keep you going back. But if you're choosing something and you feel like it's hard to do or you're not getting anything from it, maybe it's just not the right fit and find something else.
Right. Sarah?
I would echo what both Jake and Dan said, but also add do it for the right reasons. It has to be because you want to do it and because you want to give back, not because you're trying to build your business or you want something in return, because it just doesn't feel good.
Right.
And people will see right through that.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be for the right reason, and also use your talents.
Mm-hmm.
Find what you're good at and how can you give back to the community in that way, because we all have different talents. And if we all find that little corner where we can fit in with that passion, with that drive and those talents, with our whole membership, we can make a huge difference in this community in a lot of different ways.
That's all great advice. And I commend all of you for your community involvement. And I know we thank them for being here today and taking time out of your busy schedule. So Jake, Dan, and Sarah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.